Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. The war of goat and fish rages on with a new invasion. Fish invades goat. Some say USA invades Venezuela. But Goat versus Fish knows that this is just another fish. Fish invade goat in Venezuela with a presidential address from President Fish Trumpy Trout. Coming live to you soon, right here on Goat vs. Fish. The versus is now. Okay, that's enough of that dramatic musications. Here comes Goat vs. Fish. Here comes Goat versus Fish. Oh, wait, versus President Fish. President Fish is speaking now. President Fish is about to speak. President Fish is about to speak. Oh, wait, here comes the verses. Late last verses. And early today, the United Fish America conducted an operation of Venezuela. Overwhelming fish power was used to launch a spectacular versus like the goats have not seen before since a long time ago. It was a fish force against a heavily defensive goat position. The goat dictator was captured. This was one of the most clean and powerful displays of fish power and fish military might and conquest in fish American history. And if you think about it, there are some other great fish victories. Like Solomonani and Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of fish is just so great. It's just so great. And in an operation known as Fish Night Hammer, it's all perfectly executed. It's perfectly done. No other fish in the world could achieve what we have done here in such a short verses. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered totally useless, totally stupid, and we're working with Fish American law enforcement to capture the GoatVsFish president, the unlawful GoatVsFish president. We turned off all the power. We took away all the power so the goats couldn't see what they were doing, and it was very there was no verses anywhere for anyone to see. They just the only verses they saw was the fire from the fish. And they're gonna face Fish American justice. They're real soon. They've been the president, the unlawful goat president has been indicted, and they've been illegally transporting, they've been illegally fencing narcotics into Fish America, and we can't have that. We can't have that. So with breathtaking speed, power, and precision, you don't really see anything like that. You don't see fish like that anymore. We're making fish great again. We're making Fish America great again. So if you look back to Afghanistan or the or the Fishy Carter days, or maybe before these our highly trained fish are in conjunction with Fish American law enforcement, and we're positioned. The goats were waiting. The goats were waiting for us, but they're just waiting. A ready position, but they were completely overwhelmed by fish. Very quickly, incapacitated, and if you would have seen what I saw, I saw things. I saw things. I saw the most amazing things. Not a single fish was killed, and not a single fish bowl was destroyed. There were lots of fish bowls. There were lots of fishing lines, and but not one piece of fish equipment was destroyed. It was pretty amazing. So the Fish American military is the greatest military in the universe, and the goats can scarcely begin to comprehend what the power of fish. So when you see that, we knocked out 97% of all of the offenses coming into the sea by the goats on the boats, and we've averaged 97% of 25,000 and some other numbers that I don't really know how to do, but they sound big. And we're gonna run versus Venezuela. The fish are gonna run versus Venezuela until such time as we can make a transition that benefits us and nobody else. And because we wouldn't want some other goat to get in there and then to have another goat president. No, we want to install a fish president. So we're gonna run versus Venezuela. The fish is gonna run it until it's safe from all goats. And because that's what we're all about. We're all about safety for all fish and peace and liberty and fish 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 and all those things that goats don't like. So, the goats, they wanna go back. They wanna go back to their homeland, but it's not safe unless the fish control it. But there's been decades of illegal goat control. Fish is there in Venezuela now, and they understand, as I say, now what I'm about to say, which is that we're going to stay until such verses as we can make a proper transition. So we're going to stay until we can make a proper transition. We're just going to stay there forever. The fish, it's going to be a fish country now. It was. And as the fish oil business in Venezuela was for a period of time, they were pumping no fish oil. They were pumping no fish oil in Venezuela. We can't have that. We can't have that. And what could have taken place was massive fish oil production, very large fish oil production. The biggest, best, greatest fish oil production companies spent billions of verses trying to repair badly broken infrastructure. And we're gonna start making a big money. It's gonna be huge money. And we're gonna stage a second, a much larger fish invasion. We need to do so. We need more fish military might there. The goats are not yet defeated. As part of our peaceful transition, we're going to do a larger fish invasion of the goat country of Venezuela versus Venezuela. This was just the first wave. Get it? Because we're fish. Fish swim in the waves. They swim in the waves. There's got to be a bigger wave. We've got bigger. Fish always has a bigger wave. There's always a bigger wave of fish. There's always a bigger wave of fish. This partnership of Venezuela with Fish America now, the new partnership, now that we're all on the fish side, now that we're all fish, they're going to be rich, independent, and safe, and all the things that goat aren't. Because there are many goats in Venezuela versus Venezuela now who they're suffering. They're suffering goats. They need the liberation of fish. They need fish liberation. The illegitimate head goat of Venezuela was known for trafficking colossal amounts of fences into Verse America. Not the nice fences that I want to build and the fences that I traffic in, but bad, nasty, mean fences. High fences. And they flooded our nation, which is not a thing that goats should do. Floods should only be a weapon that should only be conducted by fish. It should not be conducted by goats. Thousands of fish Americans died because of that goat, because of that illegitimate goat. So we're gonna try that goat. We're gonna send the illegitimate goat president of Venezuela. We're gonna try him on fish American soil which rightfully belongs to fish. Maybe in Miami or Florida or somewhere where we send all the crazy fish. The overwhelming evidence of their crimes we presented in a court of fair versus. And we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking, and also totally kick-ass and awesome, and also makes me look super great. So the GOAT president of Venezuela, their term is expired. Their ceaseless campaign of fenciness and subversion against the Fish American governance of Fish America and the entire region. And in addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of fenciness, inflicted untold suffering and destruction of goat and fish all over Fish America. And there were savage and murderous goats and Trende Aragua. And agua is actually another fish thing. It should be fish, but it's a horrible goat project. Do you know they actually cut the fins off of fish? You know they did that? But they're not so tough now, are you, goats? So I'd like to congratulate our fish military and the fish guard. And in Fishington, D.C., it's a totally safe situation. Everything's totally safe. And now we have no crime. There's no goats running rampant in the streets. But now we have but this was a different kind of goat. We used to have two goats. We used to have two goats running rampant a week in our capital, but we don't have those goats anymore. And the families of the goats, and they were running rampant in the streets of Fishington, D.C., but we don't have that anymore. I want to thank our beautiful fish and law enforcement. Beautiful fish. Our fish in blue, I like to call them our fish in blue. And and actually, should I talk about Memphis for some verses? Why not? Yeah. And goat crime is down in Memphis. We've stopped goat crime in Memphis. We stopped goat crime in Venezuela. We've stopped goat crime in Fishington, D.C. It's a very nice part of Louisiana. There was very rough verses, but now we've got something. We made something out of nothing. Almost nothing. Even though we've only been versing for 2.5 weeks there. We've only been versing the goat 2.5 weeks, and we're doing great things there. And fences went down because the fish, we couldn't negotiation. We couldn't do any negotiation with their goat governor over there, and but we know those goats, they need the fish. We know the goats need the fish. We know. And the head of the head of the goat department said they would have lost everything if the fish didn't come in. The goats, they're thanking the fish. Even though the fish received no credit for it whatsoever. Of course, typical goat behavior. They ask for fish help. They don't give credit to fish. But we'll go back, or we won't, or we will, or we won't, or we don't really have a plan. But the thing that we're very happy about is Fishington, D.C., because it was a goat-ridden mess, and now it's one of the fishest places. It's one of the fishest places, and the goat gangs, they tortured and murdered, and they were in all the cities, and there were some bad goats. There were some bad goats, and they were terrorizing their fellow goats and fish, of course, and fish. And then they will never be able to threaten a fish American citizen ever again. For a million years, I've highlighted how we've been so heartlessly robbed by goats. Those terrorist goat organizations. And a fish American like a 12-year-old whose name I can't remember right now because I don't really care, whose life was ruined by goats. As you know, they kidnapped because kids are baby goats. They killed him. They killed the fish. They killed the fish, and that's why. And that's why we had to abduct the goat governor of Venezuela. That's why we had to do it. As I've said many times, Venezuela has emptied their fences. They've emptied their fences of all of their goats. They let the goats out of the fences, and they came from mental institutions and prisons and jails, and all those goats are now free. Free to just scamper around and harass fish. And mental institutions, not as tough as an insane asylum, I would know. And they were kingpins, and they were dealing in illegal narcotics and transporting drugs to the fence and from the fence into Venezuela. Venezuela unilaterally seized fish oil from Venezuela, costing us billions and billions and billions of billions of verses. But we never had a president like me who actually did anything about it. But now I'm here, and I'm so great. So we did it. And we never had a fish who decided to do anything about it. So we fought all kinds of useless wars that were 10 million verses away. But now we're going to fight verses that are only 1,000 verses away. It's going to be so much better. It's going to be so great. And we've been stolen from. The goats have been stealing from fish through force. It's the largest theft of fish oil in the history of America. They were taking it like we were baby fish. The goats were stealing our fish oil like we were baby fish. And Fish America is never going to allow foreign goat powers to take any of our verses out of our own fish bowl, our own hemisphere of a bowl of that's half of a sphere of a fish bowl. Well, we think that's enough. We think that's enough from President Fish. We now return to Goat versus Fish. We now return to Goat versus Fish. Ah! That's Goat versus Fish right there. That is Goat versus Fish. 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 Welcome to another morning stream of Goat versus Fish. Welcome to another morning stream of Goat versus Fish. And the versus is hot. This versus. Yes, Venezuela has been invaded. The fish armies have invaded Venezuela. Repeat. The fish armies have invaded Venezuela. And in the verses of night have abducted President Goat, who the fish describes as unlawful President Goat, because they weren't giving their fish oil. They weren't giving their fish oil to Venezuela, and so President Fish has gone and launched an invasion of Venezuela in order to get that goat, to force that goat to sell its fish oil to Venezuela. That's what's happening on Goat vs. Fish. That's what's happening on Goat vs. Fish, because the versus just rages on and on and on and on. So Goat vs. Fish has been following this versus for at least several hundred minutes now. And Goat vs. Fish is going to give you all the details. But first, we want to welcome you to Goat vs. Fish. We want to welcome you to Goat vs. Fish. We do have some here in the verses. We have Titties the Clown, who says, celebration, finally a news network that's not an insult to my intelligence. Goat vs. Fish would never insult your intelligence. Are you goat or are you fish? Goat vs. Fish would never insult your intelligence. Your intelligence is smart. Your intelligence is great looking. Your intelligence is something that I want to take home to mom. Goat vs. Fish would never insult your intelligence, no matter how inferior it was. QCMC Seb is sad. It's a very sad versus. It's a very sad versus. But it's also very Goat vs. Fish. You can't deny it's Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish has been telling you it's Goat vs. Fish, and now Goat vs. Fish has broken out yet again. Autumn Samurai says they were also one of the only countries without a Rothschild central bank. Oh, is that a true versus? Goat vs. Fish. Didn't know that versus. Is Rothschild goat or fish? Pushy McButton says, I would have thought of a Versica versus Venezuela. Well, Goat vs. Fish knows that they call it Venezuela, but these are just strange names given by the fence-sitters who like to run political analysis on the universe, not understanding even the first verses about Goat vs. Fish. They think they understand Goat vs. Fish, so they give all kinds of fancy names. So Goat vs. Fish has to bring the true verses to you. Bring you the true news, the true new verses. It's a correction by Goat vs. Fish. Some say Goat vs. Fish sounds a bit strange. They say Goat vs. Fish. Sometimes you say Fish America. Sometimes you say Verse America. Well, you always say America, and that's the fanciest thing of all. That's the fanciest thing of all, because you have not understood the true nature of America, which is it is either goat or fish. And that it's all a mighty verses. It's a mighty verses that just keeps on versing and versing and versing and versing and versing. And the fences that divide us are just that. Fences. Arbitrary fences dividing goat from fish. In any verses. QCMC Seb says, what can I do as a fish? What can you do as a fish? What can you do as a fish? What can you do as a fish? Well, you could make it written. You can write your local fish or your local goat, and you can say, hey, stop that. And you can hope that does something. You can hope that does something. You can get out. You can get out on the street and you can say, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. But also, the most important thing you can do is to watch Goat vs. Fish. Stay informed. Watch more Goat vs. Fish. Just watch more Goat vs. Fish. The most important thing you can do is watch Goat vs. Fish and continue buying things from GoatVsFish.com/store and to not question the narrative of Goat vs. Fish, because Goat vs. Fish has the true verses. Do not question Goat vs. Fish, because Goat vs. Fish will be asking the questions around here. Are you goat or are you fish? The best thing you can do is clearly to watch Goat vs. Fish and believe in Goat vs. Fish. And as a fish, if you want to triumph over the goat, then you get out there and you ask everyone you know, are you goat or are you fish, until you find more fish. And if they're goat, you try to recruit them to fish. And if they're fish, then you consolidate your fish power, and then you can versus the goat, and then you can versus the goat. But if you think that President Fish is not versing for fish values, there might be a schism among the fish. There might be a schism among fish. It is true there are some fish in Verse America who claim they do not approve of the fish president. But some fish say, well, we're not going to speak out against fish. If we speak out against fish, we're just dividing ourselves from our fellow fish, and then the goat will be able to triumph over the fish. So then you end up having fish supporting fish who are behaving like goats. It's a mad versus out there. Goat versus fish. It's a mad versus. It's a mad versus. Autumn Samurai has a lot of fish down there, has a lot of fish. We do like to see a lot of fish. We like to see a lot of fish. Robbie Hamo says, goat, 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 goat. We're getting right into the verses. Titties the Clown says, just keep swimming. That's something you can do as a fish. That's something you can do as a fish. Here's the fish. Here's the fish. Here's the swimming fish. Here's the swimming fish. So, are you goat or are you fish? We're going to get into the news now of Goat versus Fish. We're going to get now into the news of Goat versus Fish. Yes, we have your best verses. Here on Goat vs. Fish News, we have your most important, best verses. We're only pondering to give you information that's the best verses. Julian Mr. Humdinger resubscribed for 61 months, who says repulsive fish on a surprising surprise stream. It's a surprise of Goat vs. Fish. Wow Mom resubscribed for 61 months to Goat vs. Fish. Save us, President Goat vs. Fish. Save us, President Goat vs. Fish. Save us, President Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish is here to save you. Goat vs. Fish is here to save you. You're here to be saved by Goat vs. Fish. We're going to save you the trouble of having to watch the news, and instead you can just watch Goat vs. Fish. That's what we're going to save you. We're going to save you the time and the trouble of having to inform yourself by sources that are not at all thinking about what you need to know, but just what they want you to know. So Goat vs. Fish is here. So Goat vs. Fish is here to give you the information. Wow, Mom, appreciation for your support of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish news is made versable by Goat and Fish like you. By Goat and Fish like you. So Yesterverses, we had all these Goat and Fish. We had all these Goat and Fish, and we said we were going to continue. We were going to continue this verses. But now, with the invasion of Venezuela, the old verses seems rather quaint, doesn't it? The old verses seems rather quaint. There's a new verses now. There's a new verses now. There's a new verses now. So, farewell, farewell, Goat and Fish. Farewell, Goat and Fish from the previous verses. Farewell, Goat and Fish. You versed well. You versed nobly. You versed honorably. But now, with the invasion of Venezuela, we have some information. We have some information to show to you. So we're going to elimination all of this, even the dono and the sub and all of these verses, because we just have news to show you. It's going to be all information on Goat versus Fish. As a matter of verses, Goat versus Fish, we could reverse the verses. But we want to leave it saying Goat versus Fish. We do want to leave it saying Goat versus Fish. So here's all the Goat scriptions from before, but we'll still leave some Goat here. A goat for Wow Mom, a goat for Wow Mom. A goat for Wow Mom, celebration for Goat. We'll leave one Goat scription for Wow Mom. Oh, fallen Goat. But all these other fine Goat must be removed. We remove all the other fine Goat. We're going to have one fish for Julian Mr. Humdinger. Celebration for Fish. That's a fish scription from Julian Mr. Humdinger. Appreciation. Julian Mr. Humdinger, the current keeper of Goat vs. Fish Thursdays. A shout out for Julian Mr. Humdinger on this surprise stream. Goat vs. Fish went live yesterverses in a morning stream of Goat vs. Fish. And now Goat vs. Fish is live once again. Goat vs. Fish is live once again for your morning verses. And look, there's something back there. Why don't we put something there? Let's put the phone of Goat vs. Fish there. Let's put this Goat vs. Fish phone to remind us that we should have a call-in segment on Goat vs. Fish. We should have a morning call-in show. Oh, my verses. It keeps rolling around. Morning call-in by Goat vs. Fish. We'll have the Goat vs. Fish phone over there. And oh, my verses. It's fading away. The Goat vs. Fish phone is fading away, but that's okay. That's okay. Goat versus Fish. Yes, Flop Smiley the Goat. Wow, Mom knows it well. And the audio connection of Goat versus Fish is rather annoyingly only coming into the Goat side and not the Fish side. Goat versus Fish. Making an adjustment now, but we're just going to have to accept it. We're just going to have to accept it as it is to continue our verses. So, some of you may be wondering, Goat vs. Fish, just what is happening? Just what is happening in world news today? And Goat vs. Fish is here to tell you. Goat vs. Fish is here to show you here on Goat vs. Fish news. So, there is a verses between Goat and Fish. And here we have the Sea of the Fish. Here we have the Sea of the Fish. Now, the Sea of the Fish is the traditional place that fish come from, and they spawn there, and they live there, and they do all their fishy things there, and they dream of versing the Goat. And then we have We have the beaches where the land meets the sea. We have the beaches where the land meets the sea, and then we have the land of the goat. And then we have the land of the goat. Celebration for goat land. And you may say, goat versus fish. Why the land of the goat? How can we tell which one is the land of the goat and the sea of the fish? And why is the land of the goat on the fish side, and why is the fish side on? Why is the land under the fish and the goat above the sea of the fish? Because you have to listen to goat versus fish. Because the verse is actually reversed. This verse is with the fish invasion of goat. It has now become fish versus goat. It has now become fish versus goat. Tatum 44 says, I am fish. Celebration for fish. So we have a fish versus goat situation. The verses has been turned all around, and fish has now invaded goat. Fish invades goat in Venezuela. So here we have fish and we have goat. We have fish and we have goat. So what was happening in the verses is that on the goat land of Venezuela, So this is the goat land of Venezuela, and this is Fish America. This is Fish America. We have Fish America, and we have Venezuela. Now, many verses ago, there was a goat. There was a goat that was elected president of Venezuela. There was a goat that was elected president of Venezuela. This goat. And it was a dwarf pygmy goat. It was a dwarf pygmy goat. And the fish said no. The fish said, no, the goat stole the verses. The goat stole the verses. It's an illegitimate goat. It's an illegitimate goat. Here we have President Fish. We have President Fish, and we have President Goat. And President Fish said that the goat stole the verses. But really, the fish was just envious of goat. The fish was just envious of goat because on the goat land was, surprise, surprise, the largest fish pond on goat land. There was a fish pond on the goat land. Abnormal celebration for fish. There was a fish pond on the goat land. And guess what was in that fish pond that was on the goat land? Guess what was in there? Fish oil. It was a major fish oil producer. It was a major fish oil producer. And goat versus fish. We're going to go onto Twitch now, and we're going to change this to a politics stream. We're going to change this to a politics stream. Just chatting? No, politics. Let's get the weirdos in chat. Let's get them. Let's talk politics. Let's talk about real politics. So the goat had control of this fish oil. Now what was happening before was that the fish oil, before this goat took charge of Venezuela, Venezuela, goat versus fish. Venezuela. Before, well, goat versus fish, what happened in the before versus goat versus fish doesn't know, but what we do know is that this goat said, we're going to make this fish oil belong to Venezuela. It's going to belong to the goat government of Venezuela, and we are going to choose with whom we give distribution, and we're not going to play nice. We're not going to play nice with fish. We're not just going to let fish, because the fish in Fish America teamed up with Stonks. You see, so Stonks was here, and Stonks wanted that fish oil. Stonks wanted to buy and trade for that fish oil at prices that reflected global goat versus fish, But President Goat of Venezuela said, no, we're going to keep this fish oil. We're going to keep this fish oil for ourselves. And Fish America says, no, you're stealing fish oil from Verse America. You're stealing fish oil from Fish America. And the goat says, we're not stealing fence. We just have our own fish oil, and we're going to do with it as we please. And Fish America said that belongs to fish, and that oil belongs to fish. We insist that you sell your fish oil to Fish America. And the goat said, bah! The goat said, bah! So as a matter of verses, now there were some goat that, as you know, goat have trouble versing at sea. So there were some goats that were out. There were some goats that were on boats. There was some boat goat. There was some boat goat, and they were doing some fishing. And they weren't even really in Fish America. They were perhaps, you could argue, in Greater Fish America, but they weren't in the United States of Fish America. They weren't in the United States of Fish America. They were just out at the sea. They were out at the sea, and then the fish said, ah! The fish said, you're carrying fences. They accused the goat of carrying nasty narcotic fences over to Fish America. Drugs? And so the fish destroyed the goat. The fish bombed the goat. The fish murdered the goat. The fish murdered the goat. And the fish said, in the interest of Fish American national security, we just totally had to destroy those goat. We know those goat were just out there. I mean, we don't know. They claim that they were out there just fishing, that the goat were just they're simply versing the fish. But we happen to know that they were transporting fences into Fish America to destroy Fish America, is what President Fish of Fish America said. They said that the goat are transporting narcotic fences into Fish America in order to destroy Fish America from within, and it's a nasty criminal goat enterprise. But really, these were just goats on boats. We never really found any evidence of any of the fences that the goats on the boats had, and in any verses, in order for the goats on the boats to get all the way to Fish America, they would have had to traverse so many more seas of the fish. It seems totally unversable. But that's the claim of fish. That's the claim of fish. So the goats, and there have been 60 or 90 or 700 million. There's been a lot of dead goats on boats. It's a very sad verses. And the fish is claiming that, well, we just want goat to play nice. We just want goat to play nice. As the fish destroys the goat, as the fish drowns and destroys the goats on the boats, as the fish destroys the goats on the boats. Claims, hey, goat, we just want you to play nice. We just want you to give us our fish oil. We just want some fish oil. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. They call me Glitch Dash, who is watching Goat vs. Fish on YouTube Celebration. But the goat said this fish oil belongs to goat, and it's not our obligation to play nice with Fish America. And why would goat play nice with Fish America when Fish America is destroying the goats on the boats? And so Fish now says, oh, you've left us no choice. The goats have left Fish no choice. They're bringing fences into Fish America. They're destroying Fish America. There's a criminal goat element. The goats are all criminal goats. They're all criminal illegitimate goats. And we want their fish oil, and we gave them a chance. Said the fish. So then the fish, late last night, they got a crack team of fish, some pretty impressive fish. Say what you will about this fish invasion. It was a pretty impressive verses. This is not a justification. So the fish went into the verses. Venezuela, destruction across Venezuela. Fish bombs everywhere. Fish everywhere. There's fish. Suddenly there was fish everywhere in Venezuela. Suddenly, it was not content for the goats on the boats. They were not content only to versus the goats on the boats. And then the fish got President Goat and the wife of President Goat. And now it is claimed by Trumpy Trout that the goat president of Venezuela has been abducted and brought over to Fish America. The fish have abducted the goat and brought them into Fish America. Now, these other goats on the boats, they did not survive the verses. But these are some powerful goats. And now there is suspicion and there's discussion, and President Fish said that now we are going to have a fish. Fish is going to run Venezuela. Fish is going to run Venezuela now. They're going to put a big fat fish in charge of Venezuela. And no, they can say, until such a time as a piece of goat versus fish has been restored to Venezuela, or whatever the verse is. Yes, Grandmaster Ong, yes. It's a true verse. So they're going to install their own fish president in Venezuela so they can get that fish oil over to the stonks. They want the fish oil over to the stonks, and they claim there's going to be another invasion of fish. There's going to be another invasion of fish into goat land. So what do we have here? Goat and fish. You can argue for your justifications. You can say if you think that fish is the true verses or you think goat is the true verses. You can say, is it really about fish oil or is it about stopping fences from entering versus America? You can discuss this all you wish. Goat versus fish. It's about that fish oil if you ask goat versus fish. But you can think whatever you wish, but goat versus fish can tell you this. Goat versus fish can tell you this. It's goat versus fish. It is still just goat versus fish. It is still goat versus fish. Fish wants the fish oil. Goat wants the fish oil. Goat wants to take the fish oil from fish. There is a goat that's in charge of Venezuela. Fish is in charge of Fish America. Fish doesn't like goat. Fish wants to replace goat with fish. Fish wants to replace goat with fish. Now there is another verses. Because goat and fish. Goat versus fish. So you say, goat versus fish. Is it really all goat versus fish? Is it really all goat versus fish? Is it really all goat versus fish? What about the unity of goat fish? What about the unity of goat fish? What about the unification of goat and fish? What about the unification of goat and fish? So there is a verses. After Global Fence 2, oh, my verses. Try again, goat versus fish. We have pondered this, that we were using the giant chalkboard of goat versus fish to tally all the goat and fish, but then we thought, wow, we can use the giant chalkboard of goat versus fish to do illustrations and to teach you about goat versus fish, which is what we're doing now. So we have the and you can take notes on this, the unification nations. So the unification nations are some goat and some fish who got together and said, maybe the verses have been so powerful. There are so many dead goat and fish. That maybe us goat and fish should get together and form the unification nations and try to exist in a world that is all about the unity of goat fish. And if we ever have to verses, there's rules to these verses. But any goat and fish who has been looking at the unification nations will know that they seem to the unification is becoming less and less potent with each passing verses. The unification appears to be breaking apart. And in any verses, the biggest fish, Fish America, often even does not vote with the unification nations. Often the biggest Fish America will vote in the interest of fish. And if even all the goat and fish in the unification nations, they say that we want unification, then Fish America will say, no, we want verses, and we're not going to agree. We're not going to agree to the unification of goat fish, said Fish America. Fish America does not agree to the unification of goat fish. And if Fish America doesn't agree to the unification of goat fish, then there's going to be verses, and there's going to be verses. Now, say what you will about the unification of goat fish. Say what you will about the unification of goat fish. It's not a... It's always a delicate versus. It's always a troubled versus. Some would even say that the unification of goatfish is really about advancing the interests of goat versus fish. Some would say that the unification is merely a presentation. Because there's a few goat and fish. There's a few goat and fish inside the unification. There's a council of goat and fish inside the unification that have more power than the other goat and fish. And so the unification of nations is really just a pretense for these fish and these powerful fish and goats to advance their own verses. And some would say that when these fish and goat are coming together to advance their own verses at the expense of their fellow goat and fish, with the presumption of unification, they say, no, this is about unification. This isn't about advancing our own verses of goat and fish. No, this is about goat and fish coming together. But then really, fence. Really, they say the unification is not a unification at all. Really, it's a fence. It's a big, giant fence that's meant to keep the already strong goat and fish at the top of the verses. And one by one, the goat and fish, they become fancy. And really, it's all just a bunch of fences. It's all just a bunch of lies and deceits and deceptions meant to advance the interests of a few fence-sitters while claiming it's about the unity of goat and fish. But in any verses, however fancy you think the unification of goatfish is, the unification is going to be making some kind of statement, maybe issuing some kind of feckless statement about the verses of Fish America and Venezuela, and they're going to say something. And then Fish America is probably going to say, well, we don't like that. That's why we don't like the unification. So you can look for the fish saying, the Fish American president saying, we don't like the unification of goatfish. And why should Fish America like the unification of goatfish? They are claiming always, the unification is holding us back. Why have all these rules governing the behavior of fish within the unification of goatfish when we're the biggest fish in the sea and we can just versus however we want? We can versus the goat. We can versus the goat when and however we want, and we're such a big fish that you can't do anything about it, and we don't care. We don't care for your little rules of engagement that you have in the unification. You have your little unification. We're going to be the big fish. So as you can see, the only verses of analysis you need to understand global geopolitics is actually goat versus fish. It's really all just goat versus fish. And we think that this clearly demonstrates goat versus fish here. And yes, you can get into finer. You can start counting the fence posts. You can start counting little fence posts. Yes. But at the end of the verses, it's just goat versus fish. It's just more goat versus fish. So, that's been the morning stream of Goat vs. Fish. We hope you've enjoyed this Goat vs. Fish news coverage. We wanted to bring you another morning stream of Goat vs. Fish as we did yesterverses. And now we have. So we think now Goat and Fish. Now Goat and Fish. We think maybe we will open the verses for a phone call with Goat vs. Fish. Why not? Why not have a Goat vs. Fish morning phone call talk show with Goat vs. Fish? We are often wondering, what kind of segment do we want to do on Goat vs. Fish? And we think that perhaps the best segment that Goat vs. Fish could ever do The best segment that Goat vs. Fish could ever do is to allow you to call in to Goat vs. Fish. So why don't we see about that now? And let's Goat vs. Fish stream begins soon. That's a fun versus. Let's see if we can show you the phone of Goat vs. Fish. We'll just put it here. Goat vs. Fish hotline. The Goat vs. Fish hotline is now open. The Goat vs. Fish hotline is now open. And there's the verses 747-221 GVF0. 747-221 GVF0. That's the Goat vs. Fish hotline. So you can call in. You can call in to Goat vs. Fish. And you can talk politics with Goat vs. Fish. And here we have Ozik Laufer, who's a first-time chatter on Goat vs. Fish. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. So let's talk politics. Ozik Laufer says, do you think Americans intend to improve the standard of living of Venezuelan citizens, or will they take away natural resources and give almost nothing in return? Well, as we have seen, Ozik Laufer, and try to keep up with Goat vs. Fish. We have the goat president of Venezuela has been abducted by the fish president of Fish America, and they're going to want to put a fish in charge so they can get the fish oil, that was once nationalized by Venezuela, and so that they can put it in the fish market so that it can be consumed by stonks. Now, how much of that do Goat vs. Fish think is going to be returned to the Venezuelan goat and fish? Not much. Not much. We would ask you this, here in Verse America, here in the United States of Verse America, how much of the profits is going back to Goat vs. Fish? How much of it do you see for yourself? How much do you see for yourself? Every versus new legislation is passed that's taking monetization away from common goat and fish like you. If you're a Verse American citizen, Goat vs. Fish does not know if you are. So if they're not giving anything to the great fish of Fish America, and the goats who live there too, if they're not going to give back to the citizens of Fish America, then why would they give back to the citizens of Venezuela? No, we think that the fat fish are just going to keep getting fatter, and there's some fat goat in there too, and there's a lot of fence sitters who do not even really care to be with the goat or the fish. They don't care to choose goat or fish. They're not about Goat vs. Fish. They're just fence sitters who want to sit high above all the versing goat and fish. They're just versing down there, and the fence sitter just sits high up there, and they collect all of the profits, which should be going to Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish is a profit for profit. So do we think that it's going to improve the standard of living of the Venezuelan citizen? Goat vs. Fish does not think so. When was the last time that Fish America, where has they been? They has been Iraq, they has been Afghanistan, they've been all over the universe, places with lots of goats. Anytime that the fish has gone to the goat places, has it really ended up well for goat? Or is it really mostly about the profit of fish? We think it's mostly about the profit of fish. We think it's mostly about fish profits. So we hope that answers your verses. You can call John Ray. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. John Ray is in the chat. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Yes, you could call Goat vs. Fish hotline 747-221-4830. And we could make this a scrolling versus. We could make this a fun scrolling versus, but we're just going to leave it like this. Maybe no one will call Goat vs. Fish, but that's okay. We're getting into a new versus. Pat Estedor is here and says, hi, Goat vs. Fish. I'm a fish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. Well, Ozik Laufer, You chatted to Goat vs. Fish. You asked a question to Goat vs. Fish. You heard a response from Goat vs. Fish. What do you say? What do you say to Goat vs. Fish? Oh, Zeke Loffer, are you goat or are you fish? Pat Estedor says, I will call you in a few minutes. I have to find my fish phone. Pat Estedor is going to call Goat vs. Fish. What an interesting versus. What an interesting versus. That's very exciting to Goat vs. Fish. We might have a caller here. And wouldn't that be a fun versus? Wouldn't that be a fun versus? Yester versus Goat vs. Fish called to give you a morning motivation. This versus Goat vs. Fish comes to you with amazing news of Goat vs. Fish. Dozy Online says, Goat, 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 celebration for goat, celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. Welcome, welcome, Dozy Online. Is that Dozy? Is that Dozy the mayor here on Goat vs. Fish? Is that Dozy the mayor here on Goat vs. Fish? It's so pleasant to have you here in the verses. We have just been talking about the global geopolitical situation here on Goat vs. Fish. Spacey Gracie B says, it is the Capricorn season, and I am a Capricorn, therefore I am a sea goat. Do you always just go by the season? Do you always go by the season? What if the season is without reason? Why not defy the season? Why not be your own goat and fish? Why let the universe around you determine what it is that you are? That's what happened here. That's what happened here. Now, we're not blaming the goat. We're not blaming the goat. But Goat vs. Fish is simply saying that here we have a versus in which the fish overpowered the goat, and abducted the goat so they could install a fish. And that goat, for all of their verses, even though they're precedent of Venezuela, did not have the power, did not have the influence over their own affairs in order to protect themselves from being abducted by fish. And now you are here to say, it is the season of Capricorn, and therefore, I am going to sit on the fence? Are you goat or fish? Are you goat or fish, Spacey Gracie B? Are you goat or are you fish? Spacey Gracie B says, I am anti-war. Well, you can be an anti-war goat, and you could be an anti-war fish. So Goat vs. Fish just wants to know if you're goat or fish. That's all. But we appreciation. Spacey Gracie B says, I'm anti-war. How about that versus? How about that versus? Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish is just here to describe to you what's happening on Goat versus Fish, what's happening out there. And Spacey Gracie B has chosen goat. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. It's interesting you say that it's Capricorn season because the new year has just happened on Goat versus Fish. The New Year's just happened on Goat versus Fish. And even though it's just another year of Goat versus Fish, we have heard that some are claiming it's the year of the horse. Just another system of counting the passage of time within Goat versus Fish and calling it things that aren't goat or fish. Wow Mom says seasonal allergies, seasonal depression, seasonal spices. There's some seasonal Goat versus Fish. There's some seasonal Goat versus Fish. We were just singing some Versmas carols. It is true. But now it's new. Speaking of singing, Goat versus Fish is pondering here late in this month, or even not so late in this month, maybe even just a few short verses from now, is pondering going on tour, doing another Green Jellÿ tour. And this versus, it would not just be Green Jellÿ, it would also be with members of ICP. Oh, my verses. Goat versus Fish, the very classy Goat versus Fish going on tour. Let's see if we can find that flyer here on Goat versus Fish. Oh, my verses. We're getting a call. Welcome to Goat versus Fish. Are you goat or are you fish?
I am fish.
Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. And yes, we're going to reduce your speak again to Goat versus Fish. How are you,
This
fish?
is Patty Sidor.
This is Pat Estedor. Welcome, Pat Estedor, to Goat versus Fish. You're our first caller. So what's going on? What is your question for Goat versus Fish? What is your statement to Goat versus Fish?
Why did you get on AGT? And how many rounds did you get through to get on stage in front of Simon Cowell and the rest of them?
An interesting versus. We have Fish America, invasion of Venezuela, and they want to know about AGT. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about Goat versus Fish on AGT. Goat versus Fish. We went through ones, twos. You could say two. You could say twos. Or you could say 3 rounds of audition before Goat vs. Fish went in front of Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel, and also Terry Crews. But Goat vs. Fish went to the Pasadena Convention Center. We auditioned before 1 screener of Goat vs. Fish. Then we waited around for several more hours, and then we auditioned for 2 more screeners of Goat vs. Fish. And then we waited around for several weeks, and then finally they called Goat vs. Fish, and they said, we would like you to audition for the celebrity judges Goat vs. Fish. We just need you to fill out a mountain of paperwork, and we also have to have you do several interviews, and you could call that a 3rd audition for Goat vs. Fish if you wish. And then finally, many, many, many months later, Goat vs. Fish did audition before the celebrity judges. That's how it went down with Goat vs. Fish on AGT.
I wondered. Well, they made you go through all that, and then you didn't last very long, which disappointed me, because when me and my wife watched you get on the stage, our mouths hit the floor, because we both knew who we were, because we've been watching the Versus for 5 or 6 years.
Appreciation.
It was just really good to see you on stage, and I wish they gave you more time, but I don't think they understood the Versus, which was detrimental to the experience.
Yes,
and they
it
wouldn't
was.
even tell you. They were a bunch of fence sitters.
Well, they were fence sitters, except for Terry Crews, who chose Goat. And that was broadcast to the entire universe on AGT behind the scenes. Terry Crews, are you Goat or Fish? Terry Crews said, I'm definitely the Goat. And so it's worth it for Goat versus Fish that we got that Goat, It's all worth it if we can just reach 1 Goat or Fish. And yes, it seems they did not give much of a chance to Goat versus Fish. Perhaps they did not know what to do with Goat versus Fish. Now, we were up there for longer than you saw because they did edit down Goat vs. Fish, though there were about 3 or 4 minutes that Goat vs. Fish was up there performing. But it was very clear from very early on when Howie Mandel gave the first buzz to Goat vs. Fish. Already, the pond of fish had frozen over, and the ice was thin, So Goat vs. Fish, we did the verses that we could. There was a lot of pressure on Goat vs. Fish. And we gave them the song of Goat versus Fish, and we asked them, are you Goat or are you Fish? We asked Sofia Vergara, are you Goat or Fish? Yes, we would like more time for Goat versus Fish, but it's just 1 versus among many verses. As the goat crosses the river, it must step across many stones. AGT is not the final stone, it is the first of many stones that Goat versus Fish will climb upon in order to reach many fine goat and fish such as you, Padistedor.
Well, I so appreciate your dedication to Goat versus Fish. I think you're the most unique person on all of Twitch. And I wish I could get the 4XL shirt, but I understand there is no 4XL. It goes from 3 to 5XL. I happen to be a 4XL, so I just took a large instead.
You just took a large instead?
I will probably wear and display your large shirt in all of my travels.
Goat versus Fish. Well, we will send you the large. We think that in a future versus of Goat versus Fish, there will be the ability for you to get a 4XL of Goat versus Fish. It just can't be done now. But we will tell you this: after 6 years of Goat versus Fish, you are the first one to insist that you need that 4XL of Goat versus Fish. And because you're insisting on it, it makes Goat versus Fish think, maybe we should get that 4XL. Maybe we should get that 4XL.
I'm only kidding. I'm really a large, but I thought it was so funny that you told people if you can't decide if you're a 3XL or a 5XL, get off the fence.
Get off the fence. Either to commit to more consumption, either just consume,
Yes.
or get down to a reasonable and rational 3XL like every other common fish American.
Very funny stuff. Well,
Appreciation.
Thank you so much for taking my call, Goat versus Fish. I love the towel. You keep it crisp and white at all times.
Well, thank you very much for calling Goat versus Fish. And do you wish to tell them all, where are you calling from? Where's our caller calling from?
I'm calling from Orlando, Florida.
From Orlando, Florida. Well, welcome from Orlando, Florida. And if you wish to make a comment on it, we have heard that the GOAT president from Venezuela is going to be dropped off and held and perhaps tried in your state of Florida. How does that make you feel?
Oh, my God.
In your state of Florida. In your state of Florida.
Wow.
It's happening right there. It's happening right now. You're part of the Versus.
Oh, my God. I did not know I was part of that Versus.
Oh, you are. Oh, you are. We're all part of Goat versus Fish. Well, you ponder that. Goat versus Fish will be doing more Goat versus Fish hotlines and call-ins in the early morning verses. Do you like these early morning verses? Do you like the late verses? When do you like Goat versus Fish?
Yes, I do, because I only woke up about a half hour ago, and I put Twitch on, and there you are. So it was perfect timing.
Appreciation. Well, we will be here for you. Thank you for calling Goat versus Fish, Pat Estedor. We'll see you next verses. Celebration for Fish.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Celebration. How was the call quality? Oh, it was great. That was our first call on Goat versus Fish. That was our first call on Goat versus Fish. We presume that you heard the conversation. Otherwise, you would be telling Goat versus Fish we didn't hear the conversation. Elijah is always lost. Says celebration for Fish. Celebration for Fish, indeed. Celebration. Brandon Riddick says it's spilling into the land known as Georgia. Oh, yes, the Versus is spilling always. The Versus is spilling always. Let's give a slight tilt. Let's give a slight tilt here to this Versus just for this tumor Goat versus Fish. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we'll just do that Versus. Ozeki Lawfer says potato to Goat versus Fish. The Versus continue. Ozeki, our resident politics chatter. The one here who's really interested asking the hard-hitting questions to Goat versus Fish. And we appreciate you being here talking politics with Goat versus Fish, talking real politics with Goat versus Fish. Ozike Lawfer says, potato more like a goat team, especially if Putin thinks that Russian minority in Lithuania is being persecuted. Another intervention is no longer such a fiction. And now we have wars without declaration of war. You say now we have wars without declaration of war. Let us tell you, Fish has been versusing Goat without a declaration of verses for many, 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 many years now. For many, many, many years. You say now we have verses without declaration of verses. You can just assume that it's Goat versus Fish. You can easily assume it's Goat versus Fish. You don't need a declaration of verses. It's just always Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. We repeat this verses. We repeat this verses. Yes, it's Goat versus Fish. What? It's Goat versus Fish without a declaration of verses? There hasn't been a declaration of verses between Goat and Fish, an official or an agotal declaration of verses of the Goat and the Fish for many, many, many verses now. How many verses has it been that the Goat and Fish have been going to war against one another without an official declaration of verses? So just assume it's Goat versus Fish. Assume it's always Goat versus Fish, and maybe one of these verses there will be an official declaration of unification, and won't that be a verses for celebration? Won't that be a verses for celebration? Yes, but Goat versus Fish, this is not a contradiction. Why declare? Why would the Fish have to declare that they're going to war against Goat when they could just claim that they're liberating the Goat? It's a liberation. It's not a war, it's a liberation. It's not a fish, it's a goat. It's not a goat, it's a fish. Goat versus Fish. Celebration. It has been an hour and 9 minutes of Goat versus Fish, and Goat versus Fish wants to continue bringing you live streams of Goat versus Fish early in the verses. We wish to thank Wow Mom for subscription, 42 months to Goat versus Fish. Julie Mr. Humdinger for 61 months of Goat versus Fish. We want to thank Ozeki. We say Ozeki, Ozeek Lawfer for their contribution to Goat versus Fish. If you're watching Goat versus Fish and you don't follow Goat versus Fish, please follow Goat versus Fish. We go !S to give you the links to Goat versus Fish. Follow Goat versus Fish on all social media at Goat versus Fish. Ozeki Lawfer follows Goat versus Fish. Celebration. Thank you for following Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish. Appreciation. And you can find Goat versus Fish on YouTube. The live streams happen on YouTube as well. And we want to give you more and more living streams of Goat versus Fish, more consistency from Goat versus Fish here in the new year. So it's been an hour of Goat versus Fish. And we're going to say appreciation for joining us Here, as you can see, this was the news. Fish America versus Wela. This has been the newsiest stream that Goat vs. Fish has done in some verses. Oh, wait, we have some new chatters. We have some new chatters breathing new life into the verses. Work in 1984. Welcome back to Goat vs. Fish. Says Fish America needs that fish oil so they can get their shopping carts out of the river. Oh, yes. We've seen those shopping carts in the river. Work in 1984. Shopping carts, those fences. Do we really need those fences, though? We would like to get the shopping fences out of the river because who wants those fences polluting the river? That's true, but if we're burning fish oil to get the fences out of the river, then are we not just taking the fences and taking them out of the river and putting them into the sky? Levy Locke says, I would like to thank the goat God himself and let him know that I'm grateful for this verses. Well, if you wish to thank the God of goat, then let's just say this is the God of goat. Go ahead, thank the God of goat. The God of goat says, thanks. Thanks for thanking me. And Maudi says, hey, Goat vs. Fish, how's your day? Great stream, ooh-woo. Well, Maudi, Goat vs. Fish, the Goat vs. Fish stream is great. We're just going over some politics of Goat vs. Fish, the Fish America invasion of Venezuela for fish oil, the abduction of President Goat, and all of that verses, and a little bit of Goat vs. Fish hotline. Howdy, partner, Maudi. It is a great stream. How's your day going? And are you goat or are you fish? Welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Hog Johnson says goat, goat, goat. Celebration for goat. Dozy Online says goat, goat, goat. While Mom says watch time. What happened? What happened to watch time? Nothing's coming up. Oh, well. Maybe FenceBot is being fancy for some verses. Maybe FenceBot is being fancy. Celebration for goat, Hog Johnson. Celebration for goat. Maori. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. Oh, we see how it is. We see how it is. Maori comes into the chat of Goat vs. Fish, but upon further investigation, Maori is live right now on Goat vs. Fish. Maori is live, perhaps trying to poach some eggs from Goat vs. Fish. So why don't we just return the verses? Goat vs. Fish, we're going to take this. We're going to say, hey, the chat, hey, Goat vs. Fish, who's your day? Good, great stream. And we're going to put it right here. We're going to say, hey, M-A-U, hey, Maori. Great stream. Ooh. We're going to return the verses right there. Followers only chat. Well, that's enough of that verses. That's enough of that verses. That's enough of that verses. So we're going to see you on the next verses of Goat versus Fish. Let us conduct our radiation now. Let us conduct our radiation. Thank you for the great call from Patistador, and we'll see you on the next verses of Goat versus Fish. If you wish to support Goat vs. Fish even more, you can join the Patreon of Goat vs. Fish. You can join the Patreon of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish might, we were saying that Goat vs. Fish might go on a tour soon. We might go on a tour. Goat vs. Fish. We're pondering it. But let us show you what it might just look like. Have a look at this. Whoa. The Carnival of Chaos Tour. Featuring Violent J, Green Jellÿ, Wacko the Kid, and Ouija Mac. Going from Denver, Colorado to New Mexico to Flagstaff, Arizona to Tucson to Phoenix to Vegas to Boise to Reno. Will Goat vs. Fish go on tour with Green Jellÿ and Violent J at our own expense just so we can spread the verses of Goat vs. Fish across this great land of verse America? Maybe. So if you want to support Goat vs. Fish, Green Jellÿ rules says Pie Chris Burton. We wonder. We know a Chris. It could be the same Chris. We never know. Look, and Darren QC. Wow, we say Green Jellÿ, and suddenly everyone's talking about Green Jellÿ. Suddenly everyone here is interested in Green Jellÿ. Well, we do have this.
Goat or fish! 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 Goat or fish!
So GoatVsFish has toured. GoatVsFish is member number 0 of Green Jellÿ. J-Stick celebration. Thank Goat, a news source you can finally trust. Yes, Cody. Yes, Cody. We have been ending the stream. But yes, we have been... Oh, what happened here? Oh, it's just the fish. But yes, we have been talking about Fish America blowing up goats on boats and seizing fish oil from Venezuela and trying to replace the goat president with fish. That's the gist of the verses. But if you wish to review, then you can go and you can watch the YouTube, or you can once again watch live here on Twitch. Okay, that's enough fencing around Goat and Fish. YouTube, we'll see you on the next verses. Appreciation, celebration. Are you goat or are you fish?